Hey guys, thanks so much for checking out this video. As titled below, this particular Let's Get Real episode is about Parenting 101. And this was actually suggested by somebody who I feel like is almost like a close friend, Buffalo Bill. Man, I appreciate how engaged you are with our channel and how often I know you're clicking the like button and sending us comments and stuff. And we took sort of your suggestion regarding parenting and disciplining children, and we kind of evolved it into the whole Parenting 101, I guess. So anyways, thanks for your suggestion. Guys, if you haven't already, make sure you check out last Let's Get Real about the Shaytards. I really enjoyed that conversation and hope that you guys will too. So let's get started. Okay, so Parenting 101, what gives us the right to talk about how to parent your kids? Really? I don't know.
So if you don't know, we have 3 children ranging in age from 11 to 2 years old. So we've been doing this for over a decade.
Yeah, imagine that.
We are not perfect. We don't have all of the answers. But so I guess maybe we should call this like a how-to, but more of a...
Here's some suggestions.
Some suggestions. Yeah, I like that better.
So the first thing that I wanted to address was, being that we've got 3 kids, it's important, I think, first off, that you recognize that each kid is different. Mm-hmm. Salem came along in our life and it was perfect timing. Like, her personality fit what we needed at the time.
She was very easygoing and agreeable and very like, whatever you guys want to do, I can do, and it'll make me happy. And I mean, even as a baby. So she perfectly fit into what we needed at the time, because we had 2 different work schedules. So she was, it was fantastic.
And like, we weren't perfect. And in all fairness, guys, like, I wasn't the most patient person. So honestly, we were super blessed to have her born first. And then we had Ian, and Ian was a little bit of a maniac. He's like all boy, wants to climb everything, wants to break everything, wants to, super independent, a complete polar opposite from Salem. And, we learned a lot of patience through that. And we learned how to deal with chaos and things of that nature.
And then of course we have Harlow, and she's our youngest. And Harlow is, she's a game changer. She is a little bit of both kids, and then like stepped up a tad. She's like an accident waiting to happen. She has way too much adventure and way too much imagination and too much drive to do what everybody else is doing. And she's also very small for her age. Yeah. So there's an extra like danger factor when it comes to her, because...
Well, the good news is because she's so small, like when she falls, it's not that far to hit the ground. So I don't think she gets as hurt. But anyway, the point is that every kid is different. And so there isn't a one perfect, so maybe the title of this video being Parenting 101, I mean, it's kind of the basics, right?
So when we say that every kid is different, it's not just their personalities and their likes and their dislikes. It's also the way that you manage them. Managing sounds terrible.
No, I mean, there's truth to that. No.
It's the way you manage them. It's the way that you discipline them. It's the way they learn. It's the way that... Dude, even the way they grieve and they get sad, their emotional reactions are completely different. So there is not a perfect formula that works for all children. However, I do believe that there is a perfect formula for parenting, if that makes sense.
It's called alcohol.
Stop.
So I once heard a guy use an analogy about being an adult and being in a new workspace. And oftentimes you take a new job, you don't know everything about the job. Maybe you go through training and whatnot, but you're still gonna mess up. There's still opportunity for you to mess up. What we do as adults is very different sometimes to what like I've even done to our kids, and what we've witnessed other parents do is, you make a mistake, you're so quick to attack the child and just be like, what are you doing? And I've done it several times, and honestly, like watching this, because it was a video on YouTube, I think, that I came across, and but being more realistic, like I wouldn't do that with a coworker. You know, oftentimes as a parent, like you just want them to correct the behavior so quickly that you are quick to be brash and raise your voice. And I mean, especially with Ian, there have been times, because as a male, as you know, I see Ian as a younger me, and like I remember mistakes that I made, and I'm like, dude, don't do that. And so I think from the dad standpoint, especially for a son, you want them to essentially do the right thing the first time. And so it's easy to really just kind of blast your kids and just be like, hey dude, fix it, don't do it again.
Yeah.
And there's okay, like I definitely believe in being stern. So even when Ian was younger, you know, there were times where, what would you tell me?
I would tell you, I'd remind you that he was only 4 and that you couldn't speak to him, you couldn't expect him to have the same reaction as you would.
Right.
With the same words and the same kind of understanding. And they do not process information the same.
So, and that's where the analogy works is, you know, in a work environment, somebody messes up, you're not just gonna jump down their throat about it. I mean, maybe in some work environments you do, but I wouldn't want to work there. And so I don't think you develop people well in that manner. And the important piece to, you know, parenting from our standpoint, we've talked about this and agree on it, is that you really sincerely, we are preparing them for the future. So where we're going is the importance of, you know, you're raising a little human. And
yeah, they're not going to be children forever.
Right.
They are eventually going to go out into the world. If you're lucky, you've got them for 18 years. If you're cursed, you've got them for 30.
Huh.
Just kidding. So let's just say you've got them for 18 to 20 years or so, and after that, they are on their own, and it's up to you to make sure that in that time frame that you have them, that you mold them into people that other people can look up to, that they are well behaved, because nobody wants somebody who's breaking laws.
Yeah, you know, there are people that I've worked with where I'm like, you were not raised right as a kid. But let's get granular with it, because I think that really what we should be talking about is like, how do you, like, what are the necessary steps that you take and things that you do? And number one, I think that it's important that you ask for advice as a parent. You know, Kristen and I, we had shared the last Let's Get Real that, hey, we had problems. We had issues as a married couple. You know, you take two imperfect people, you put them together, and you expect it to be perfect. That's just absurd. So then you mix in a child, and it's like...
Or 2 or 10.
And...
whatever floats your boat.
It just, you know, now you're just creating chaos. What it could potentially be chaos. And so I think as parents, like, you know, hey, we come to an agreement on certain things, on other things we may disagree, but I think it's important to seek advice from other people too, from other parents. And especially those that you witness how they speak to their kids, and you can see, you know, that they're, from your standpoint, they're doing the right thing.
I think a lot of when people say it takes a village to raise a kid, it's not necessarily meaning that you've got multiple families all working together, but having parents that have wisdom enough to reach out to other parents and say, I need help in this avenue. I don't know that what I'm doing is right, or what would you do in this situation?
Right.
I'm super blessed to have a lot of really good friends that are fantastic moms that call on me and I call on them, and we do life together. And that is the best piece of advice I think I could give anybody, because it's good for your sanity and it's good for your children.
So why don't you talk about what you were telling me about the tribe in Africa?
So I don't know if there's any validity to this. I've seen it a couple of times over the years on Facebook, and every time I read about it, it makes me very emotional. It makes me want to tear. It makes me cry sometimes. There is supposed to be a tribe in Africa that when somebody does something wrong, instead of completely annihilating the person with, you're a screw up, you've hurt this person in this way, you've done X, Y, and Z, they put the person in the center of the village, and for 2 days, every single person in the village, whether it's a child or a woman or a man, approaches this person and speaks nothing but good things about them, tells them what they've done right, what they've done for them, how they've impacted their lives. And we said it in the last vlog, love wins everything. Love covers everything. And
I think that's like the impact of, it's proof of the impact of positive reinforcement. Like, it's so important to build people up and talk people up. You know, I mean, it's, you know, nobody's family is perfect. And, you know, I remember my mom saying things about just feeling belittled. And I think that what happens is, over time, when people do that, you know, when you talk down to somebody and you continue to do that, or you tell them they don't look good or they're ugly or whatever, I mean, that's like, gosh, that's another episode we could do just on bullying. But I think that, you know, people start to believe those things, and they really start to, you know, kind of pigeonhole themselves into a belief. And children are so impressionable. And look, we're not psychologists. I don't have a degree. I don't know what the best way is to raise children, but I do recognize that there needs to be there has to be that positive reinforcement, like, continually. So I'm going to share this. Recently, one thing that Ian's been doing is he walks around, and if he can't figure something out, I mean, it could be homework or a video game or, you know, trying to draw something, and he immediately goes to, like, I'm stupid, I'm never going to learn this. And we're like, dude, you're not, like, this is your first time, maybe second time, third time that you're applying yourself at this. It's, again, it's the same thing. Like, you start a new position at work, you're not supposed to have all of the knowledge. You know, with Ian doing that, we talk to him in those terms. You know, we talk to him realistically, and we're like, look, buddy, you're not going to get this right off.
Yeah, but we also take the time to remind him of his successes,
right,
and give him examples of things that he's done similar and been able things that he's
simile.
Remind him of things that he's done along the same lines, and remind him that he was able to do something else, he could do this too. And discipline is necessary, but building kids up is also necessary. And so if for every single time they do something wrong, you tell them 5 things they've done right, I think you can balance out the extremes really well, and make them understand that doing wrong things is not the end of the world, and that they are not always going to do wrong things. I think it's so imperative that kids are told that they're good more than they're told that they're bad. For the same reason what you just said. You always tell someone they're bad, they're going to believe they're bad.
So I think that, I think we've established that piece, the building up piece. I do want to move on to the discipline piece, because I think that's where a lot of parents struggle. I don't think there's any parents that are out there that just, like, have kids for the sake of beating the crap out of them. There was just the thing that happened in California about the couple that had a bunch of adopted children, I think.
They were all their kids.
Wow. And so, you know, there are terrible situations, but I think that, you know, for the most part, you know, parents want their kids to be successful. It doesn't matter religion, race, there's nobody wants a child to fail. You know, and are there bad parents out there? Absolutely. But I think that, you know, focusing on the parenting aspect of it is how do you discipline your kid? I think that it ties into that, like, if you just beat them down all the time, you just, you know, you're just punishing them physically, mentally. I mean, because there's different forms of discipline. You can have an adverse effect from what maybe you as a parent are hoping to get out of that. I could never imagine, like, raising my hand to my child and them, like, kind of flickering and being like, oh my gosh, is he gonna hit me?
Right, yeah.
Do you spank your kids? Do you know, from our standpoint, we do believe that, like, you discipline them at a young age, that they will be respectful when they're older.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a fine line, because I know today's society, it's almost like you admit to disciplining them in a certain form that all of a sudden you're under attack. How you see it as a parent, the number one thing that you have to understand is, are you getting results out of that? And do I agree with you know, putting your hands on a kid and hurting a kid and all that? Absolutely not. You know, there are forms of punishment that you can do to get to yield the results that you want. So listen, I think that's up to parents. Every parent's going to do it a little bit differently. We choose to sit down and have a one-on-one conversation and treat them like an adult in many situations.
Yep.
And sometimes it doesn't work, guys. I mean, there's times where it's like, hey, go to your room, get up in your room, shut the door, you figure it out. And then there's other times where you want to be there and you want to hold them and love them and make sure that the number one thing is being secure. But you had mentioned that discipline is necessary, but it's also not universal.
Right. One really important part of parenting is being not just forgiving towards your children, but also forgiving towards yourself. There's a lot of times that you'll make mistakes. There's a lot of times that you'll say things and afterwards you'll be like, I wish I hadn't said that. And I wish I spoke more gentle to my kids more often. There's so many things that I wish I could take back. And I'm like my worst critic. There's times I really, really am unhappy with myself based on my performance as a mom.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is like, I think that pretty much at this point, everybody has seen that video on YouTube about the kids being interviewed about what they think of their mom, and the moms are just weeping because they're like, I don't see myself like that.
Right.
And I think your kids see nothing but the good in you. And you really need to be more forgiving and gracious with yourself, because anybody who's ever lived with any amount of guilt knows that living with guilt makes you agitated, and your responses to people are more harsh. And so if you're feeling bad about yourself as a parent, you're probably still not going to be as gentle with your kids as you want to be. So it's really a big deal to be patient with yourself and realize that you are, every day it's a learning.
That's really
curve.
good. Yeah, that's super good, because like I think a lot of people, they take out their frustrations. I mean, I can definitely say that, if I've had a bad day at work, it's hard to come home and be like, hey everybody, like it just doesn't happen. There's times where you're like, oh my gosh, Harlow's crying, Ian's throwing a fit, Salem's got stacks of homework, your makeup and hair's not done because you're doing dishes, and like the house is in chaos, and you're just like, wow, here we go. I think that, people need to understand, yeah, you have to be gracious with yourself. Yeah, you have to be gracious with, others. I mean, some of you guys know that we've got Corey living with us, Kristen's brother. Mm-hmm. We've got my dad living with us as well. And so, there's times where it's like, as a functioning family, there's other aspects. And the reality of it is it doesn't matter who's with you in a home. There are so many outside forces that can influence who you are as a person and the things that you say. And I think it's really important that you keep that in mind. The one thing I did want to address is that I think a lot of parents are so concerned, because I had touched on this earlier about, like I look at Ian and I'm like, I don't want him to make the same mistakes. But I have to remind myself that his walk is his own. I can do everything that I can to stop him from doing something, but it doesn't mean that he's not going to do it when he gets older. All I can do is be a positive role model for him now. Do I want him to make mistakes? No. Will he? Yes. But what's important is that he learns from those mistakes, and not that he continues to repeat those mistakes.
The one thing that your kids are going to be most angry at you about is you telling them no about anything. But the reality is that as their parent, your job is to be exactly that. It's not to be their friend, and it's not to say yes to everything. And maybe you're not your number one goal, but a high priority is to protect them. And that's protecting them from themselves. That's protecting them from situations that may not benefit them. There's friends that might be bad influences, or
That's very true.
don't treat them kindly enough.
Yeah.
Like, Salem had a friend in the past that was really mean to her, but like under the radar mean, and because she was older than Salem, she took advantage of things, and Salem was not old enough.
Like keen to it, yeah.
Yeah, she didn't really understand what was going on, and as her parents, we had to say, we don't want you to play with her because she's not nice. And she hated that about us. I mean, in the moment.
Yeah, but it was a form of protecting her too.
Yeah.
And you know, not allowing somebody else to take advantage. And what's important is hopefully the other person on the other end of that kind of sees that too. And you know, the more parents that are like, hey, this is not okay, that child ends up kind of figuring it out on their own, hopefully.
You know, sometimes there's like even the obvious where you have to keep them from hurting themselves.
Yeah.
Like Harlow loves to climb on the kitchen counter, and she like is so mad at us when we're pulling her down, but I don't want her to fall off and, you know, break an arm or crack her head open. And you know, Ian can't cross the street by himself because he's too young, and Salem can't drive a car because, you know, she doesn't have a driver's license. Things along those lines. Like it seems super obvious, but sometimes it just isn't to your kids.
Right.
And you know, like you have to teach them, like, my job is to protect you in all aspects.
Ultimately, we're here to protect them. I did want to share one story because I think you have to recognize the fact that like kids will drive you crazy. Like they will literally drive you crazy. And this is where it's important that you are able to control yourself. One time we were at Kroger, I don't know if you remember this, Ian was like, he was bolting through the store. And we kept telling him like, dude, buddy, slow down, buddy, slow down. And you know, I'm just trying to be all calm about everything. And he starts booking it towards this door that's a fire exit. And I'm like, don't touch the door, don't touch the door, don't touch the door. And I'm looking around like, how do I get his attention? And there's this like display of mayonnaise. So I just grabbed the mayonnaise jar and I'm like, I'm gonna throw it at the door so there's something loud to like break, to divert him from hitting the door. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, I've got a jar of mayonnaise in my hand. And I turn around and there's like all these people looking at me like, what are you doing, dude? Like, why are you, what's going on? And I just set the jar of mayonnaise down and Ian turns around like, what? And I just remember being so mad. I'm like, you were gonna set off the alarm. And like, but it was, what's funny about that, if I were to really be honest about that scenario, I was more concerned about him setting the alarm off and then everybody looking at us and being like, oh, look at this, parents are out of control and they're setting off alarms. And here I am with a jar of mayonnaise in my hand getting ready to chuck it. And I think people probably were thinking, dude, he's going to throw it at that kid. Like, this dad is insane. But
nobody called the cops that day.
That day. So, you know, there is no perfect way to do this. And I just think that people have to, like, as a parent, you have to recognize, like, you're gonna mess up, your kids are gonna mess up, but it's like how you function as a family and move forward in that is really truly the part that you have to consistently work on. So something that I do want to address that I know a lot of parents agree with is if you don't have children, do not give parental advice. Let me explain. So, you know, we've been to, Ian was a week old when we took him to Disneyland for the first time. I know, gasps, I can hear it. We went to Vegas with our kids. We took Harlow there when she was, what, 3 months old?
No, we took Ian there when he was 3 months old. Harlow was a year old.
We got too many kids. So we, you know, the thing is we're not afraid to get our kids out, and, you know, a lot of people are like, you can't expose them to germs. I get it. But the reality of it is they've got brothers. The reality of it is especially with Harlow, she's got a brother and a sister that are around the germs and everything like that. And we're big, you know, we believe that, hey, let them get sick. It builds up their immunity. That could be another, let's get real. But let me further explain myself. You know, if I were to go to a football player and tell him, hey, this is how you really want to catch the ball, or this is how you want to tackle somebody, or this is how you want to kick it, that's absurd. I'm not a football player. That's not my thing, man. That would be crazy. So for me to have advice, even though because I watch it on TV, you know, like I'm just a spectator. I'm not the guy that's working his butt off to become a pro or to become somebody important on his team. I'm not going to give him advice. And so if you do not have kids, I would strongly discourage you from looking at somebody else, you know, other parents, and just we've had people in our lives that have always had something to say about anything. Yeah. Well, there's those kind of people. Yeah. But and that there's also something else that should be addressed. Even if you are a parent, I've talked about being gracious with yourself. Be gracious with other parents, because
you never know what's going on.
Right.
And I cannot even, I will admit this, I cannot say how many times I would say things along the lines, my kids will never throw a fit in public. My kids will never cry. I will never be that parent.
Yeah,
and you know
you can
what?
control that 100%
I am
of the
absolutely
time.
that parent because Harlow came in and like I said, she's a whole other breed. That girl throws fits and temper tantrums like none other.
Right.
I have never, Salem and Ian have never behaved that way, and she just does it out of the blue. She just decides, nope, this is not what I want to be doing anymore, and you will let me do what I want to do, or I will behave this way. And it's not perfect. I don't handle it the best way all of the time. I don't even know what's right or wrong in that situation.
I was just thinking of so many scenarios. I've been that guy. I'm like, dude, control your kid, man.
Yeah.
Come on. But it's like control your kid. I hope that you don't try to do that as a parent, and that is your one-track mind. It's just to control your kid all the time.
Your kids absolutely have their own thoughts, their own feelings, and they are going to want to express that. You really should let them, but responsibly also. Just because your kid does something wrong doesn't mean that they can't tell you why they thought that doing it that way was gonna work. Because part of them expressing that gives you the opportunity to say, well, this is why it doesn't, and let it be a teaching experience. But if you're always squashing what they're thinking and feeling, they'll never have the opportunity to learn what works and what doesn't.
Right.
They're just gonna know what they can't do according to you.
Yeah. So I think that, and something you had said is, I don't want people to misconstrue that, like, oh, just let them have a temper tantrum. I mean, Kristen and I are of the belief, like, that starts happening in public, like, we're out. We leave, that doesn't,
We don't reward the behavior.
No, but, I know that there are parental sets that will just kind of let their kid be free and do whatever they want. That's not us. I don't know, we've met some kids that, like, I don't agree with that philosophy, but this is how we do it. And I think to end this, it's important that people understand that, like, guys, this show, Let's Get Real, this is our thing. We want to get real with you guys about how we see things. It's not necessarily always you're not going to agree with 100% of the stuff that we agree. This is how we get real. So we appreciate you taking the time to listen, to watch. Hope that you gave us a thumbs up. Thanks again to Buffalo Bill for the suggestion. If you have something that you'd like us to talk about, please leave a comment down below, and we'd be more than happy to attack that subject. And yeah, like we're gonna attack our children. So that being said, make sure you guys stick around for more vlogs coming in the next couple days. Check out our channel, check out some of our other videos. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys soon.
Of course we do. We got that
child right there. That's a good one.
Oh my goodness.
This is our dog, of whom we are very patient with, especially when he interrupts the session multiple times. You are not helping.
You see?
No. All right, there's a dog, and we're just gonna use this, okay?
It's gonna be so obvious now because he's in this shot.
We're just gonna go with it. There's a dog in the shot.
And like, how do we want them to conduct themselves in a place?
Stop moving.
Just roll with it. That's what he's saying. We're just
I'm pretty sure Harlow is getting ready to come downstairs, so we haven't finished what you're gonna say.
We're also using our kids for discounts.
That is true. Man, this is gonna be a really tough vlog to edit. This is gonna be an extremely tough episode to edit.